go into public service. I really have no idea what the future holds. I could be a stay-home dad, but that's the goal, is to have that option 5.5 years from now, that if I do want to be a stay-home dad, that I can go ahead and do it. Or if I want to fly for the airlines, I can do that. Or if I want to stay in the Navy, then I can do that. So there is one thing, and this is like a very tongue-in-cheek answer, a response to your question. There was a 99-cent bottle of orange juice. I was at a conference for work before I joined the Navy, and I was so frugal that I did not buy that 99-cent bottle of orange juice, and I so badly wanted it. I got in line, and I ended up putting it back because I was too frugal. And so it kind of a joking answer, but it gets to the fact that it's a problem that I've always dealt with, and I'm trying to get better at, is to actually spend money and part with it.
You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 262. Got a great episode planned today with Joe. He's 32, former attorney, and is now a Navy pilot. He's a net worth of just over $1 million. So a really interesting discussion with him on making that career switch and just the different things that he's done in his life. And obviously we talk a little bit about what his profession is like today, which is a super cool discussion. Haven't had somebody on with that level of experience in the military that I'm aware of, especially on the Navy side, that as a pilot. So a real interesting conversation with him. Definitely had several military members out there. Definitely appreciate the service of Joe and all those who have come on and those who listen. Last week we had Jeff. He was a community college administrator. His net worth was just around $1.1 million, broken up in various retirement accounts. We discussed with him about leaving legacy and inheritances and different things that have affected his family in a positive way financially. He was raised by a single mom. Very amazing, tremendous story with Jeff. So go check out that episode. I wanted to read a couple of reviews that we got recently. This one comes from Cash YG. It said, one-of-a-kind podcast. I don't know of any other podcast that digs into personal finances of everyday people. It provides absolutely wonderful stories of folks who have financially done well, a wealth of information for listeners who strive to get there or the ones who have already achieved it. I'm a big fan. Got another one from Money Nerd 45679. This podcast is great. I enjoy each of the stories and the allocation. Sad to see Clark go, but excited to see what the future holds with Jace. Appreciate that. Once again, we love all those reviews that you give us on Apple and Stitcher and anywhere else you might listen to the podcast. Continues to help grow the show and get quality guests on. Without any further delay, let's get into the episode this week with Joe.
Joe, do you want to just give us a little about your background and what you're up to now?
Sure, be happy to. I am currently a Navy pilot. I fly the F-18 Super Hornet, and before that, I was a licensed and practicing attorney in my hometown. Yeah, I'm a big personal finance aficionado, and it's just something that has always coincided with my outlook on money, and I've always been a big saver. So I've been listening to your podcast for quite some time. I absolutely love it, and I'd be happy to go into why I love it as opposed to all the other ones. Not that I don't enjoy them, but yours is particularly my favorite, and I'm happy to be on a podcast. It's my first time being invited to a podcast or reaching out to be on a podcast. So thanks for having me on.
So before we get into your story, thanks for your service, by the way. We were just chatting a little bit before the show, and you've got some big news, man. What's your net worth now?
So when I reached out to you guys to be on the show, I was at 875, and I'm 1.02. So again, I want to reiterate, hopefully that doesn't preclude me from being invited back onto the show later on.
Definitely not. So coming on to do the $1 million holler, man, I love it. So tell our listeners how the $1 million is broken up, and also just for context, maybe if you don't mind sharing, your age or roughly how old you are, so that they can get some context around this, because it's pretty remarkable what you've done in such a short time.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, 32 years old. Got about another 6 months before I turn 33. The financial makeup, I've got 135K in TSP, which is the government version of the 401K. And then from my previous job as an attorney, I was able to put 35K into my 401K. So add that up, public math, right? 170 in my 401K. I've got 70,000 in my Roth IRA. I've got 23,000 in a 529. I don't have kids, but I've got it in my nephew's name, and I can either leave that in his name or transfer that over to my own kids if that's applicable some point down the road. And then I've got roughly 460,000 in a taxable account. I've got about 65,000 in crypto, although it was going down as of a few hours ago, so maybe it's a little bit less. I've got about 200,000 in home equity. I've got 10,000 in a checking account, 2,000 in savings account, and then about 20,000 in a business checking account. And hopefully that adds up to the 1.02 that I talked about. If my math, if I did it right. If not, for the viewers, so sorry. Somewhere close to there, maybe.
The money that you've got invested in the market, is that in bonds, stocks, mutual funds? What's the makeup there?
Great question. So for the TSP and 401k, I'm as risky as I can be. So I'm in, if anybody's adept to the TSP, I'm in 100% C fund, which is the overall stock market index fund that TSP allows you to do. As far as my 401k, I'm also as risky as possible. Roth IRA and my taxable accounts are all they're managed. My family, we've got a small plot of land, and my parents are small business owners. So there's somebody that works taxes and things with them. So it's just sort of I pay the expense ratio, but to me it's well worth it for that because there's a lot more going on than my own personal finance aspect of it. So that's just good peace of mind for me. And then let's see here. And then the 529, that's also in the most the riskiest category that I could find as well, just because I'm so young and I know the market's going to go down. There's going to be a correction. There's going to be a crash at some point, but I know that I've got, 20, 30 years where I can make that up. And if it goes down, then great. I buy at a discount. I keep my savings rate extremely high. And I don't foresee retiring anytime soon. I could see, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. I hope that's okay. I could see potentially getting out of the military at some point and then having options available to me. But I don't see myself sitting on the couch watching Price is Right at 11 o'clock. So define retirement, right? Is it sitting around doing nothing? Is it traveling? I'll probably find a way to still bring in some money while I'm technically retired.
How long have you been investing in those tax advantaged accounts?
All right. Yep. So the TSP and the Roth since day one, I've always maxed those out. And then luckily a couple of years ago, the government instituted a matching program. So now I get 5% matching on the TSP, but I've maxed it out since I started working. So since I was 24, 25-ish.
So 5% on what you put in, and it's capped at a certain percentage of your salary, I assume?
No. So no, it's not. It goes up when your rank goes up and your base pay goes up. So I get 5%, but that 5% isn't traditional. I put everything else into Roth. So yeah. I think that answers it. Is that what you're getting at?
Okay, so 5% of your base is what they put in.
Correct. 5% of my base.
I gotcha. And then you can contribute just up to the legal amount.
Exactly, which is kind of a contentious subject for me because the way the interface works with the website, you can no longer. Apparently, you used to be able to do this. You could go in and put, I want to contribute $19,000 a year, or whatever the maximum allowed is for that given taxable year. Now you have to do a percentage of your pay, of your base pay, which is a little bit more work, and also sometimes it's a government website, so it doesn't update instantaneously for the next paycheck. So it might take a few pay cycles to update your percentage. Where that gets you into trouble is if you have you rank up or your base pay goes up because you got a pay raise based off of the rank in years in service. Sometimes you can go over. Going over a little bit, not a big deal. But if you go over to the point where, let's say, you hit the max contribution limit for the year in October, you will not get the, and I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty darn sure that this is the case. You will not get the 5% for November and December. So maybe that's not true, but I'm fairly confident in that, and I'm being overly safe by trying to be as diligent with that as I can, and getting the exact amount right, or roughly the exact amount right that I get the matching.
Gotcha. And the options in the TSP, are they pretty good or not great?
You mean the allocation options?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I know you mentioned most of yours is in a total market, so at least they have a couple good options, but curious what the others are.
Yeah, I think there's like 4 or 5. I'm sorry, I should have done more research on it beforehand, but I think there's 4 or 5, and then you've got the 2060 and 2050 and 2040 and 2030. So when you want to retire, but I just took control of that and put it all into C Fund. I know there's basically a 100% bond, so you can go as risk or risk averse as you'd like, but there aren't a whole bunch of different options. I think there might be an emerging markets one. There might be a foreign option, but there aren't too many. There's not a whole bunch, but you know what? It meets my needs with the overall great fund. Yeah. Exactly.
So Joe, give us a little background here. I know you have a unique background. Obviously, you went to school. You mentioned before you joined the Navy. So give us kind of a brief background here on who you are.
Sure. I got my bachelor's from Indiana University. I got out and I did that in 3 years. I got out and wasn't actually anticipating being able to graduate that spring. I had a meeting with my advisor, and he said, you've got enough credits that if you took just one class this summer, you could go ahead and graduate this spring. So I had no idea. So I went ahead and did that, though. Went out and got an internship / job with the state Senate for that gap year because my plan was to go to law school. So I did not have my application fully in for that because I wasn't anticipating being able to graduate so soon. So I went to law school in 2011 and graduated in 2.5 years. From that, passed the bar and got to work for a couple of years, and then realized the desk wasn't for me and joined the Navy and finally did something that I always wanted to do, which was to fly planes for the military.
So why the Navy? Because that was the dream, or how did that change happen?
Well, part of it is my best friend is a Navy pilot as well, and so I got all of that experience and knowledge from him. I didn't really even consider anything else, but everybody always asks me why Navy, not Air Force, and I didn't really even know much about the Marines at that point for aviation. Although they're naval aviators and they're under the Department of Navy, so I didn't know about them. I may have considered them if I had known about it, but I knew I wasn't going to go Air Force. I knew I wanted Navy because the aircraft carrier was the big thing for me, and the rush of being able to land on a moving boat in the middle of the ocean, and then being in a forward operating area with those capabilities was very, very alluring to me. So for me, it was always Navy, and luckily they accepted me.
So let's talk about this. So we'll take a step back here from the personal finance. Can you just take off your humble hat and just tell everybody what that's like to fly an F-18? I mean, I just looked it up. We're talking top miles per hour, like 1,100 miles per hour, landing on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean. I mean, what is it like?
Well, so I'll do my best to take the humble hat on, but I really am humbled every single day by what I get to do. And I look back on high school, and I'm going to digress from you real quickly, but from the question, but I was never fully into school in high school. And now I look back and it's like, man, I would have loved to have, what a great opportunity to learn about a myriad of different subjects. And it's right there for you, and it's free. So so I didn't apply myself fully to school in high school. So, I don't know why. I'm going to remain humble because I don't know why they let me do it. But it's the thrill of a lifetime, and getting launched off a carrier, especially on a pitch dark night, and you can't see anything. There's not even star references. It's out of this world. And then landing in poor weather, poor visibility, and at night, and then you trap. And then you walk downstairs in your gear. It's unlike anything in the world. And then being able to dogfight in the air and feel the G's, and and be humbled. You're constantly humbled. If you ever meet a fighter pilot that's not humble, they're wrong, because we make mistakes every single day. There's no such thing as a perfect flight, and it's extremely stressful, and it's a lot of work. But I think all of that encompasses into one of the most thrilling experiences of your lifetime. And I'll look back one day and think, wow, I can't believe I A, got the opportunity to do that, and B, was able to do it. But you definitely get there with the help from your friends and family, and then all of your shipmates that you go through the program with, and we get by together. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but I don't know if the humble hat can actually fully come off.
No, it's interesting. Yeah, thanks for sharing. What's the process like getting into that, the application and approval process?
Yeah, great question. So there's two routes, the enlisted and the officer route. So if there's anybody interested in pursuing naval aviation and being a pilot, definitely be careful not to rag on recruiters, but sometimes they've got quotas to fill, and I've heard horror stories. So that's out there. Make sure you do your research. To be a naval aviator, you have to have a college degree. To be an officer in the military, you've got to have a college degree. And then I went down to the recruiting office, said I wanted to fly. They asked me if I wanted to apply for naval flight officer as well, which is essentially the Maverick front seat, Goose back seat, for lack of a better explanation, because there's not much truth to that movie at all, except there is a place called Top Gun, and they do have planes there. But they asked me if I wanted to apply for that, and I said no. And they said, why not? What if you don't get pilot? And I said, well, I can't say I didn't try. So I applied for pilot, went through the whole process, got letters of recommendation, gave them my transcripts, went to MEPS, which is the Medical Processing Center, get checked out head to toe, do all these different tests, submit a personal statement, do the intro, I guess it's called the ASTB. I forget what it stands for. I'm sorry. But it's the intro test to see your aptitude for being a pilot. And then you wait for your board, and luckily got accepted. So, if anybody's got any questions about that process, I'd be more than happy to guide them through it, or help them through it rather, if they get my contact info through you guys.
Wow, pretty amazing. Well, thanks again for doing it. So are you, young age, $1 million net worth, how does that compare to the people that you serve with? Yeah,
it's interesting. I know a lot of friends. I've got a couple of good friends that I fly with that, we openly talk about it, because we're big on personal finance, right? There are two people that I'm open about the actual number with. One of them is my personal finance mentor, who retired at 31, and then the other one doesn't fly in my squadron, so he's in a completely different area, and we now touch base every few months. So we don't really talk the exact number, and I don't really know if I want to divulge that to my friends in everyday conversation, just because I don't know. It's an odd thing to now be able to say I'm a millionaire, but there are definitely a lot of people in the military, and especially in aviation, that are very, very personal finance oriented. I remember my mentor saying that he had a friend that was in the military, and he said that you're never going to strike it rich in the military, but if you're diligent, then you can do something really special. And this guy had put in about $1,000 a month, maxed out his stuff, and then put $1,000 a month in addition to maxing out his retirement vehicles. And was able to grow that. And so that was always sort of the benchmark for me. That was the challenge. Like, okay, can I do that? And then 1,000. and now I've exceeded that. So I feel like I'm giving long-winded answers to all your questions. I'm sorry about that, but there's definitely a lot of people, but I don't think we really talk about the exact number that we all have.
Who is your mentor that you speak about?
Yep. So he's a very good friend of mine. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He's 4 or 5 years my senior, and I won't go too much into his story, but he got out of college and is very, very frugal and saved 95% of his income. He did very, very well in his job and was able to save a lot of money. And then he just turns things into gold. So he's got his hands in all these, weird investments, but they just turn to gold every single time. I mean, it could be, I got this idea of, with baseball cards, or I've got this idea on barrels of wine. And it's like, how do you even begin to, it's the Donald Rumsfeld. You don't know what you don't know. And I don't know where he gets these things. But then he got linked up with some buddies to do market strategies and hedge fund managing. So he's retired, but he's still super active. He's got his real estate broker's license. So he's got his hands in real estate. He's got his hands in the market. He's got his hands on just a lot of different things. So technically retired, but he's just very active. And one story that just shows exactly who he is. I remember my mom answering the door when I was a kid, and it was my mentor, and he was probably 10 years old selling candy bars for school. And Mrs. Joe, would you like to buy a candy bar, or buy candy bars for our school fundraiser? Well, sure, of course, I'd love to. How much are they? He said, 2 for $1. So my mom goes, okay, can I buy 1 for 50 cents? No, sorry, they're 2 for $1. So quite the salesman and wheeler dealer, but yeah, he's extremely good and a great friend to have to be able to talk these conversations with. And if I ever have any questions about anything finance related or even, tax related, he's probably come across it. And what a great asset for me to have.
Yeah. So what do you utilize him for? What are those kind of conversations? Are you running your investment strategies by him, or what kind of mentorship does he provide, for you specifically?
Well, I don't know if I can think of an exact question, just because with busy schedules now, we're probably talking every couple months, every few months, but it's more of just filling each other in and giving each other updates and pats on the back about wow, what a great job we're doing in the finance world and staying diligent and staying disciplined. And not that either of us have a problem with that, but yeah, I would definitely say I don't go to him for counsel all that often. Or at least a situation doesn't really come to mind. But yeah, although I guess to answer, actually, it just popped in my head. Real estate definitely will come to mind for that. So he's a real estate broker. So as far as the Airbnb that I have, that he came in big handy when I bought that house. And, now do I sell it? Do I not sell it? I asked him that question, just a few weeks ago.
Joe, you've built up this great net worth. You're super young. You're living the dream, transitioning from being, in the office to being a fighter pilot. Where do you go from here at this point?
I ask myself that every single day. I have no idea. I know that the possibilities are limitless, and what a not to sound preachy, but I mean what a great thing, and I'm very blessed to be in this position. I owe 5.5 years left in my contract to the Navy, at which point I'll be at about 12 years, so I could stay in for the career and then retire off of the military pension, or I could get out, go fly for the airlines. Get another job, start a business, go into public service. I really have no idea what the future holds. I could be a stay-home dad, but that's the goal, is to have that option 5.5 years from now, that if I do want to be a stay-home dad, that I can go ahead and do it. Or if I want to fly for the airlines, I can do that. Or if I want to stay in the Navy, then I can do that. So I really have absolutely no idea.
Did you think you would reach millionaire status at this age?
No. In fact, I'm glad you asked that question, because when I first got into the Navy, I was, put a spreadsheet together and had all of my expenses and all of the vehicles. And of course, I use the 6% and 7% and 8%. And I think I had just under $1 million right before my contract would be up. So at about 37 years. So I didn't anticipate getting it this quickly.
So is there a net worth goal?
I used to think so. I went on a vacation one time to Barbados and stayed at a place that was nice. It was very, very nice. Not to diminish it at all. It was beautiful. But there's a place in Barbados called Sandy Lane, and Tiger Woods got married there. I mean, it's one of the top resorts in the world. Marble floors, and I remember hearing. I just wanted to see it, so I went for lunch, right? Just to see what it was like. And I remember hearing that the cheapest room for one night on a weeknight was $3,500. It's like, okay, what if I want to go to Sandy Lane? This is just sort of an arbitrary thought. What if I want to go to Sandy Lane for 1 week, twice a year? Okay, now I'm looking at roughly $40,000 a week, so $80,000 a year. What would that take to be the interest? Just maybe that's the interest for let's call it 2 months or something like that. And I think I remember coming up with a figure of 7.2, and I have no idea how I calculated that. And that's not even a goal anymore, but I just remember thinking of that number. And I don't really have a goal anymore, especially just with inflation. And I don't know what my needs or wants are going to be. I know that I want to be able to travel and have a nice place to call home. Nothing big, but things are just nice, and it's a wellness, a place I can go home and recalibrate, for my mental wellness. And I also know I want to impact the community and give back. So, if I were to, have $320 million, or $10 million, and, or even what I have now, like I want to be able to give that back in some way to the community. That's a goal. So not just spend it all on myself, not just spend it all on my family, but be able to have a positive impact on the community someday. So I don't really have a numerical goal anymore. Just keep doing what I'm doing and see what comes of it.
Yeah, good for you. So the home equity, let's shift here and talk about the home equity. How do you have that much in home equity, or why keep the home if you're in the Navy and potentially moving around?
Sure. I bought the house because my hometown Airbnb short-term rental scene was extremely lucrative, with a lot of conventions, a lot of sporting events. And I felt that I could provide a superior product to my competitors. And boy, what a first year it was. I mean, it was pretty remarkable. Gross $75,000. So the first year, immediately it was 45 to 50,000 net profit that first year. And this is before COVID. Luckily, I had enough saved up that COVID wasn't a huge deal. I just wasn't, making a profit anymore. And now I'm barely making a profit. And home prices have skyrocketed, so I'm contemplating selling it at this point. But we'll see. If things were to come back, it's definitely lucrative, especially if you do it right and provide a good product for people to stay. Then it could be worth it. But
so you just have somebody else manage it?
So for the longest time, well, I shouldn't say for the longest time. For the first 2 years, I managed it on my own. Now my whole family is there, so if I needed something crazy, then they could help me out a little bit. But I technically managed it. And with modern technology, as soon as somebody books the place on Airbnb, then, there's the app is linked to the Airbnb account. So an automatic or a code gets sent automatically to the tenant, and it automatically can be unlocked. The code can be used at the prescribed check-in time, and then it immediately expires at checkout time. Lights are automatic, heat and air conditioning automatic, cable, TVs, all from apps on my phone. So it was pretty darn successful. Now I'm so busy now with workups for deployment, it's just unsustainable. And then being gone for deployment with no connectivity, or virtually no connectivity next year, it just made sense to have a property manager, which luckily is my sister and her boyfriend, who manage I think 7 properties now. And they do very well. So obviously they give me a friend family discount, but I think it's also, I think it's a win for them as well to have the property under their management.
And then you had to have somebody clean it, though, even when you were doing it on your own, right?
Oh, right. Yes. So I forgot about that part. So also, as soon as somebody books, it automatically books my cleaner's calendar. So I didn't even have to worry about that. And of course, payment is automatic through there. And then they send me updates if something, is broken or something like that. Then they'll text me or say, hey, your towels are kind of getting, you lost 2 towels this week because they were just, not worthy of putting out for guests. Okay, well, I'm coming home once a quarter. Of course, COVID, all of 2020, I was gone an entire year. But before that, I'm coming home at least once a quarter, even if it's just for a weekend, so I can run out and get more supplies and replenish the house. So it was viable for quite some time, but with my sister and her boyfriend managing properties, it just made sense to make the switch, and I couldn't be happier with that.
Awesome. So let me ask you about cash. You have, I think you said, correct me if I'm wrong here, 10,000 in your checking and then 20,000 in another business checking.
I do. And so the business checking, that's for the house. That's for the Airbnb. And
yeah. So the question, you have about 3%, right, in cash. 3% of your net worth. If very liquid, right? Obviously, you have your investments as well, but 30,000 out of $1 million, is that right?
Yep, that's about right. Yep.
So pretty low, especially with a rental property. Just curious to get your thinking there.
Yep. So I feel confident that I can always just take out of my taxable account. I've already paid the taxes on it, and then nobody foresaw COVID, right? But I definitely did not foresee a world where, okay, I'm getting maybe one booking a month. But luckily I had that coffer built up, and so I didn't have to tap into my income from the Navy. So my thought process is I've got a very safe job. Even if I were to totally and do something wrong or warrant essentially getting fired, then the whole government process of kicking me out would still take months, and I would have a steady paycheck coming in. So as far as having the safety net, the emergency fund, it's just not really on the biggest priorities to me. So my emergency fund is essentially my investments, and I'm just going to throw it in there, let it build. And then if something were to really crazy go wrong, then I could always just not contribute to my TSP or my Roth IRA or the 529 or the $2,500 a month I put away in my taxable account, or whatever extra cash I put into crypto, or all of it. I could just put it all towards the house, for whatever necessity that requires.
So is buying more real estate in the picture?
I used to think so, but not really, especially just right now. It's so high, and I'm not an expert, right? I'm definitely not an expert in real estate, but I like to think that there won't be a massive crash in real estate. Hoping that everybody learned their lessons, all parties learned their lessons after 2008, but maybe a correction. But I just don't see. I remember people used to throw around the 1% rule all the time. Now nobody talks about that at all, and so I just don't see the numbers playing out for anything that I'm looking at right now. Although I still get emails every single day about new listings. Not just where I'm living now, but at my hometown and a couple of other cities that just piqued my interest. I look every single day at new listings just for the fun of it, and I'm not closed off to the idea of getting more real estate, but it's also not something that's a major priority for me right now, especially with workups for deployment and then the impending deployment next year.
So Joe, one thing that we haven't hit on yet that I want to before we close this out is you've got a pretty cool side hustle, right?
I do. Yep. I've got I play a little bit of poker on the side when I can, which got me started. It definitely gave me a big bump starting out savings wise when I got out of school. I was able to play in the World Series of Poker in 2015 and got a roughly $30,000 prize from that. I won my seat in the tournament, so I didn't have to pay the $10,000 buy-in. So that, in addition to what I was putting away, got my nest egg started at a very early time. So that $30,000, not to belittle any money ever, but $30,000 now, in relation to my current net worth, not a huge thing. Again, not to belittle money. That's a lot of an exorbitant amount of money, and I would look at it that way as well. But first starting out and being able to win a prize that's larger than the current nest egg, that was a huge deal. And then I recently just started playing again online in February, and have been able to do pretty well, which has came at a good time, right around the time when crypto had a massive correction down to 28,000. So I was buying in the whole way down with all of my poker winnings, and my average is about 33,000 getting into the crypto market. So that's definitely funded the $65,000. And like I said, what a fortunate time for it to happen, because the market corrected. And so nice little profit there too.
When did you start playing poker?
I started playing poker freshman year of high school. This is right around the Chris Moneymaker time frame, when he won the World Series, won $1 million, and it was just on newly on ESPN. They had the whole card camera, so now it's more exciting for people to watch at home. And online poker was just starting its massive boom, and I'm just a little pipsqueak freshman asking this guy sitting next to me, "Hey, what are you doing tonight after the football game?" It was a Friday. He said, "Oh, I'm having some guys over for poker." And I was like, "What? Get out of here. What are you talking about? You're not playing poker." And he's like, "Yeah, we are." I said, I don't believe you. Like, that's something our dads do. Like, come on, do your parents know about this? I mean, just total nerd was I. And I felt like such a fool. So instead of going to the football game, I went to the library. I checked out every single book on poker they had. Proceeded to lose, I don't know, probably $20, $30 and $2, $3, $4, $5 buy-ins with friends. And then just kept studying the game and played through college, built up a little bit of a bankroll then, and then didn't play again till law school. Started playing there, and then I was getting off of work and going to play at the poker rooms in my hometown as a side hustle, and then joined the Navy and stopped playing. And just recently in February started to pick it up again. The group back home, they started playing online as a result of COVID, and of course they don't just play once a week now. They play almost every day. That's become a little bit of a side hustle, but at the same time, again, long-winded answer here, I do sometimes wonder at what point is it worth it, because I love languages, I love learning, I love reading. So, what's the number mark per month that it's worth giving up the precious hours, because I'm working 14, 15 hours a day. I don't get on Duolingo that much anymore. I don't read the books that I was reading before. So that's something that I still contemplate. And as long as it still stays profitable, then it's hard for me to say no. But at the same time, I might just have to find that sweet spot of, okay, I'm going to play once a week, if my schedule allows. But I definitely want to focus on personal well-being and health and mindfulness outside of that, instead of it occupying all of my time, as lucrative as it may be.
Is there anything in particular that you've regretted over the last decade as it relates to your financial life, or any of the decisions you've made that affects that?
There is one thing, and this is like a very tongue-in-cheek answer, a response to your question. There was a 99-cent bottle of orange juice. I was at a conference for work before I joined the Navy, and I was so frugal that I did not buy that 99-cent bottle of orange juice, and I so badly wanted it. I got in line, and I ended up putting it back because I was too frugal. And so it kind of a joking answer, but it gets to the fact that it's a problem that I've always dealt with, and I'm trying to get better at, is to actually spend money and part with it. And like I said, it's not a true answer. And sorry, the real true answer is no. Very fortunate that I don't have many regrets. You can't. Everybody wishes, I wish I'd gotten into Bitcoin, but that's not. You can't wish things like that, right? I mean, there's not a true mistake that I feel like I've made yet. I'm sure I will, but I just sort of wanted to point at the fact that it's definitely something that I work towards. I wanted to bring up that it's difficult for me to part with money and not hoard it. And that's something that I work on so that when I am in the spending phases of my life, that I'm not too stingy, that I can't enjoy life and I can't enjoy it with friends and family.
Well, because before we were recording, you said buy once, cry once, right?
Oh, that's right. Absolutely. Buy once, cry once. I will do my research on things that I buy. So, gosh, I'm trying to think of an example, but yeah, I won't buy something unless I know that I'm going to have it for quite a long time, if not my entire life. And also, it's got a place. Things just don't really excite me. It's clutter, and that's something that actually that coming up on Christmas. We're only in August still, but my mom's already asked me what's on your Christmas list, and I have to walk this fine line of being grateful and also conveying my not beliefs, but conveying my preferences. I don't want anything. I feel like I have everything that I could need and want, and things just sort of make me feel claustrophobic. So, but when I do buy something, I make sure I get one that's not a cheap knockoff, or at least, it can be cheap, but just make sure it's going to withstand time, and I'm going to continue to get value from it, not just then, but down the road, without me hoarding it and without it becoming a burden on my life.
Yeah. Do you have any debt?
Just the house, just the mortgage on the house.
Okay. And prior to that, did you have any debt, credit cards, student loans?
No. So I always looked at credit cards as, I even was at the point where now I've got automatic payments on, but I don't think an automatic payment ever gets sent. I think I'm always on there once a week or once every other week. It was at a point where I was, as soon as I bought something, I would pay the statement, as soon as it was not a pending transaction anymore, I would just go and pay it. So luckily never had an issue with credit card debt. I never viewed a credit card limit as money that was mine. It's not, unless I have the bank account to support it. So I never had an issue with that. And then again, very, very blessed. I never had student loans and parents that funded that. So I know a lot of people aren't in that position. I couldn't be more blessed there. And in fact, going back to goals, that's definitely a big goal of mine, is to provide education for my kids, future kids one day, and not just college and beyond. But I've got this is probably my biggest financial goal, and I can't believe I forgot about it. So I'm going to go into it right now, if that's all right. But there's a school in my hometown that is an international school, and it's a bilingual program, and kids can become fluent in not only one but two languages by the time they graduate high school, with half of college paid for and an international baccalaureate degree. So that's a goal of mine, is to be able to provide education for my kids from K through whatever, however far they want to go in their education goals.
Yeah. Did you worry about money, or do you still worry about money at all?
I don't worry about it now. I remember first getting started and wondering, how am I gonna? And it's almost embarrassing to talk about. But I thought to myself, I was making $38,000 a year when I first got out of law school, and thinking to myself, okay, if I live at home and save 95% of it, call it 34,000 times, 50 years of my life. And how am I going to live on that? As a licensed attorney, I didn't really even understand the concept of compounded interest until then. And so, I kind of worried about it then, but then, I got that poker winnings and had a little bit of a lump sum. And luckily, my buddy became my mentor, and it's like, no, dude, get that in the market, and it happened to be a great time to get into the market right after the crash in 2008. So I did it at a time, but definitely not anymore. It's just a matter of what the market's going to do. But at the same time, if it were to go crashing down, I feel pretty darn confident that I can just not change anything at all. In fact, every correction there is in a market, I get kind of excited about, because then I can buy more. So again, long road to a short house. don't really worry about money.
Did this all happen, reaching millionaire faster than you thought, or?
100%. Absolutely. Like I said, the spreadsheet that I created, I thought I was going to hit it around 38, and the goal for me was to get it before I got out, or before my contract was up rather. But yeah, I never imagined it would hit this fast. But again, with the market, and if you're diligent and have a high savings rate, and are frugal when you can be, then it's definitely possible.
So Joe, is you kind of go through this career, obviously you got your JD, obviously now, flying F-18s. How do you recharge?
Oh, well, right now I sat down for this interview and I had about 5 minutes to work through some technical issues before our call. I haven't even figured it out yet. I've been too busy this year to figure it out. I used to play a lot of golf. There's no time for that. Definitely keeping in touch with friends and family. That's definitely one. Listening to music on the way into work and leaving work, and then podcasts. I don't watch any TV, so that definitely provides some time to recharge a little bit. I feel like if I were to spend an hour in front of the TV, I just don't know when I would be able to fit that on the schedule. And yeah, I spend a lot of time with friends. I play piano. I really enjoy that, although it's just tough to find time. I enjoy learning languages. And then, I play poker, which really isn't a recharge. And that's what I was kind of getting at earlier is, at what point is it worth it? I understand that recharging my mind, my spiritual health is extremely important, especially with what I do. And where is the line monetarily when it becomes like, okay, I'm going to completely abandon playing the piano for 30 minutes a night, or I'm going to completely abandon reading a book because, this money, I just can't say no to it. But at the same time, my mental health requires it. So I do have some hobbies that I really enjoy doing. Before I was so busy, I played in a hockey league, golf, staying active that way. But it's been an interesting year. So it's tough to answer the question just because it's been such a demanding year. If you'd asked me this 9 months ago, I'd have a list, 10 minutes long of all the hobbies that I enjoy doing.
All right. So just in closing here, Joe, you've given so much great advice, but if you could pinpoint a couple things that you could say, hey, that's what made me so successful, obviously as a person or financially, what would they be? And what would your last words of advice to somebody that says, hey, I want to be like that guy?
Sure. As far as professionally, personal finance, or sort of like mindset, or all of it? Yeah,
I think all of it.
Okay. Well, again, sorry, I feel like I'm just giving such long-winded answers. And I hope
no, it's good.
Question. As far as personal finance, just high savings rate. I don't think there's been a single person on your show that has said, 15% or 20% works for me, and it's gotten me to where I am. No, high savings rate is definitely key. I think there's not been a time when I've been below 70 ever. At one point I feel like I've been able to live life and go and enjoy things and go out to dinner with friends and, experience, travel and whatnot. But, the buy once, cry once mentality and not spending money frivolously has helped there. The camper trailer helped when I was spending $200 a month in rent when I was in flight school. As far as professionally goes, just never settle. I feel like I've talked to a couple of people and they said, I don't know if I'll get accepted. Like, I don't think I'm going to pursue it. And it's like, well, somebody's got to. If they let this C+ student, cornhick, if they let me fly it, then, I've had, less than reputable experiences in my life, things that I'm not proud of, just like everybody else. And if they let me do it, then why not? Why not you? So if anybody's ever applying for a scholarship or for some program in the military, or I'm just like, well, somebody's got to get it. So put your hat in the ring and put your best foot forward. So I guess just never give up there. And then mindset wise, I kind of attribute it maybe a little bit to growing up. I've never felt like I fully have integrated with groups of people. I've never been the popular kid. And as I've grown older and I like to think maybe a little bit more mature and maybe a little bit more wiser, I've fallen into my rhythm of being a little bit more quiet, contrary to what people might think from this interview with my long-winded answers, but not trying to be the jokester or things like that. So I've fallen into my rhythm, but growing up I didn't really belong. I've got great friends and lifelong friends since I was a kid, but as far as being the popular kid, I was definitely not that. I got made fun of a lot in high school. So, I guess if I was sitting on a couch with a therapist, they might say, well, your ambition is geared at getting back at the kids that bullied me in high school. But that's just being honest with myself and being honest with your listeners. But I really can't pinpoint. Maybe I'm completely off basis there, and I just always want to work hard and, setting my mind on the next thing and constantly aspiring for improvement and self-betterment.
Well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for opening up. I appreciate it. Just last couple of questions here. What's been your range of income through your working life?
So started out at $37,000. I remember I was making $1,200 a month at the Senate internship after college. I thought that was an exorbitant amount of money. After law school, $37,000 a year, and now gross with the Navy. I think I'm just under $100,000 gross, but I sort of look at it not as just under $100,000. I look at more what I bring in. So I know that every single paycheck, twice a month, I bring in $2,450 a month every paycheck, and then I know that my rent goes out the door for that. So let's call it rent and utilities, $900. I've got roommates, and then maxing out the Roth IRA, the 529, and then I know I've got $2,500 going out the door for my taxable account. So really, I kind of view it as I make about $1,100 a month. That's just sort of my mentality. So I've got that range of income, and yeah, I'm sure I make just under 100,000 as an aviator, as a lieutenant in the Navy. My mindset is I make $1,100 a month.
And what about spending?
Spending, like I said, that's definitely been a problem of mine to actually spend. So usually it's not a big problem. I can keep it under the $1,100 a month range, fairly easy. Yeah, I've tried to make a budget, but it's just, I don't know. I've got the opposite problem of trying to spend more money. So again, very lucky there as far as personal finance goes, but never really budgeted, and spending has never been an issue for me, or overspending rather.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thanks so much for coming on. Net worth of $1 million. Really appreciate it. I mean, amazing story, amazing advice. So thanks for spending almost an hour with us here. So thank you. My pleasure. And thanks for having me on. And I hope I get to come back on later at a higher net worth. And like I said, if anybody has any questions for me about the military, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And that's part of being in a position where I am. There's going to be people after you, and it's all about giving back to the next generation of aircrew and military members, not just flyers. So giving back to the next generation is very important to me. So if anybody's got any questions, I would love to help out where possible.
Awesome. Thanks
Joe. For listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Chase Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.